Well, let's talk about discouragement for today. Again, I'm talking out of this book. Let me tell you something. Discouragement can come very, very quickly. Just look at Thomas Edison. How discouraged do you think that man was after numerous attempts to find a way to make a light bulb? I mean, Alexander Graham Bell, I can't even imagine how many times he got discouraged before he invented the telephone. And this is true of every inventor. But this is true of Christians as well. You try to do something and boy, I tell you what, it backfires, it goes right down the toilet. Shoot, here Stephen was trying to drive a point home, and what happens? The Jewish Sanhedrin decides they want to kill this guy, and they killed him. Talk about real discouragement. Shoot, Ezekiel. Let's take Ezekiel for a pretty good example there. He tried to tell these wonderful Jews what was getting ready to happen to them. They weren't going to listen to him, and it happened. Don't believe me? You can read the book of Ezekiel for yourself, and you can find out just what was going to happen to him, what he predicted, and what really happened. So, discouragement is a big thing. Let me tell you something. Just because you preach the salvation message does not mean that people are going to receive it. How many times did Ezekiel tell the people what was going to happen to them, and they didn't want to listen to him at all? And this is all throughout the Bible. Shoot, here Moses comes up to Pharaoh. He takes his staff, throws it down, it turns into a snake. Then Pharaoh's magicians come over there, and they throw their sticks down, and all of a sudden, they turn into snakes. Now, Moses' snake eats the snakes of the magicians because that was something that God divinely did. So the snake turns back into a rod. Moses picks the dang thing back up. And after all of that, Pharaoh says, I ain't going to let those Jewish people go. Those Hebrews are going to stay right here. Talk about discouragement. And then what came out of his mouth afterwards was even worse. Someone was like, oh, God, you mean I have to come back? I thought this was a one-time deal. I was going to go in there. I was going to heroically get these people out. Yay! Didn't quite work that way. Now, I've dealt with my own personal discouragement. Shoot, I invented a text-to-speech software, but nobody even understood how the thing worked. So, of course, it never really went into production, now did it? But one of the greatest discouragements I found was in a video I posted up just the other day. There was a video that had been posted. I was replying to it. And part of that video was showing a picture of Jesus and Barabbas, and it was talking about democracy and how democracy had caused Barabbas to go free and Jesus to go to the crucifixion. And I tried to explain things, and obviously I did a very poor job. Let me tell you something. When it came to that situation, God wanted Jesus to be crucified. Now, if the people had shouted, Jesus, Jesus, and not Barabbas, Jesus would not have been crucified. So God had to fix that vote to make sure that Jesus got crucified. Otherwise, we wouldn't be saved from our sins. So, did God tell these people and force them to vote for Barabbas? No. God already knew that the majority of the crowd that was there that day was going to vote for Barabbas. He also knew which people he had to have in that crowd to vote for Barabbas. He knew he knew the vote of those particular people before they ever went to that place and voted for Barabbas. Okay, let me clear that up for you. God already knew how these people were going to vote before they ever showed up and voted for Barabbas. God also knew that if they were notified of the vote, they were going to be there and they were going to vote for Barabbas because they were friends of Barabbas. Okay? And even if they weren't, it wouldn't matter anyway. He knew they were going to vote for Barabbas. So all God had to do was let them know that there was going to be a vote taking place. And that's what he did. God let them know, hey man, they're going to have this vote between Jesus and Barabbas. If you want Barabbas to be saved, get your buns over there. Now, he didn't do it in literally that way, but in his own way, he made sure that everybody knew, he got the word around, God got the word around, that everybody knew that there was going to be a big vote between Barabbas and Jesus. And these Barabbas supporters got that word and showed up in a mass drove. That's when they voted for Barabbas. Okay? Now you would think that something like that would be very easily understood. Obviously not. So I got a ton of negative criticism, and some of my comments were voted down so badly that they actually got removed. Isn't that nice? That just shows how stupid these people really are. I can't help that, and I'm not going to even try. Now you would think with that kind of discouragement I would quit making videos like this. I'm not going to quit making videos like this. Because you see, it's not about being believed. I knew these people probably weren't going to listen to me anyway. But that's their problem. Because you see, I just tell them what's there, and then if they don't believe me, God himself deals with them. Now, a lot of people say, well, oh, you mean like he did with King Herod. He filled King Herod's stomach full of worms when he became boastful, and the worms ate his stomach alive. That's one way God can deal with it. Certainly in the book of Acts, there were these two people, Ananias and Sapphira, that did not give what they said they were going to give in the line of a tithe, and they were killed on the spot. They were lying about their tithing, and they got killed on the spot. Now, that's one way it could be done. But there are other ways God can do things. Okay? More than likely, the habit of God is not to just directly deal with you. Remember, now King Herod, when he got those worms in his stomach, God didn't just take his fist and punch him in there. No, that wasn't the way it worked. King Herod ate something with worms inside. But those worms didn't do their exact work until the very moment Herod started boasting. Then they activated, and then he was dead. So Herod actually ate the worms. Not realizing it, but he did. Probably worm eggs. And at the time that they hatched was the same time he was giving this big old speech, and bam, he was killed. More than likely, when it comes to God, God's not going to strike you down. He just is not going to save you either. Okay? Let's say you're driving down the road. Now, God knows that there's going to be an accident ahead of you. Okay? Now, he can do one of two things. He can either keep you from that accident, or he can just let it happen. And that's the way it is. For Christians, maybe God suddenly throws up the red light, and you stop, and the car that was going to hit you just flies on through. Okay? Because God's not controlling people, he's controlling your environment instead. So he controls when the light turns red or green. In his own way. Okay? It's not like he flips a switch. Oh, I took my hand down, I flipped a switch. He doesn't do it that way. He just influences how the light system works. So suddenly you get a red light, you stop, and you see this car just fly right past you. And you know that if that light had stayed green, that car would have smashed into you. Maybe God influences a cat to run across your path. So you stop your car for the cat, and then a car comes flying at you and drives on by. But you don't get in the wreck. But the other guy who doesn't believe in God, he keeps right on trucking and he hits the car. That's the way it really works. It's not a matter of what God will do to you. It's a matter of what he will not save you from. Okay? If he feels that you need to be punished, he does not save you from a situation that you could have been saved from. See the difference? So, like I said, God didn't make those people vote for Barabbas over Jesus. He didn't make them show up either. He just made sure word got out that there was going to be a vote between Barabbas and Jesus, and he made sure that that word reached the people that were going to vote for Barabbas. And that's why they showed up, and the people that were going to vote for Jesus didn't show up, and that's how Jesus got crucified. Okay? So God influenced the situation, but he didn't directly tell those people to do anything. He just knew they were going to do it. In the same like manner, like I said, when you're dealing with a situation like this, God is not necessarily going to strike you with a lightning bolt. Instead, he just may not keep you from a very bad situation. You know, it's a bad situation is going to come up, and he just says, let it go. Okay? Remember, Christians are in sales, not management. We just tell you how it is. Then God deals with the situation. Okay? We don't give you the illness. But if you get sick, well, it's probably because God didn't keep you from getting sick. He probably did something that created the illness which you now have. That type of thing. So I think people are finally getting the idea. It's not about, we're not going to do anything to you. Christians are not supposed to. All we're supposed to do is tell you how it is. And if we get a little discouraged because of it, then, but remember, God's dealing with the situation. You find when you're dealing with discouragement, you have to finally say to God, okay, I've done everything I can. What's your answer? Remember that. Remember, it's not about what you're doing, it's about what God's going to do about the situation. Say, look, I told this guy, he ain't listening to me, he's all yours. And that's the way it works. Okay? Now, I got another discouraging email from another person. It had something to do with a completely different video, and I'm going to make a video about this today. And it's not going to be this one, it's going to be another one. And hopefully, that situation will get straightened out too. Alright? But, anyway, remember, when you're facing discouragement, Moses faced discouragement, David faced discouragement, Solomon faced discouragement, Ezekiel faced discouragement. There were many disciples of Jesus that became apostles. They faced all kinds of discouragement. How discouraging was it for St. Paul when he got beaten up and thrown out of that city, and then he found out he was going to have to go back and talk to him again? Talk about discouraging. You would have thought the first time they'd get the picture, but they didn't. You talk about discouragement, Jonah got swallowed by a fish. He was thinking, okay, I'll deliver this message, no problem. But then he got discouraged, and God put him in a fish. I'll tell you what, that gets pretty discouraging. And of all the people in the world that should have gotten discouraged, it was Job. Everything he had was wiped out. Talk about discouragement. But you go on anyway. Because you go on because you know that God's on your side. Alright? So, don't let discouragement get to you. There are too many examples in the Bible how people got discouraged, but they relied on God, and God got them through. Okay? So, you just have to take those examples into consideration when you're facing discouragement. Alright. That's enough for today. I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.